The holidays can bring up a lot of triggers around your relationships, especially when you are spending extended time with family. And it really is important to understand that holiday anxiety isn't just about the holiday season itself. It's not just about buying the presents and getting things done on time. It often reveals deeper relationship patterns and unprocessed triggers. So, by understanding the root of your stress responses and your triggers, you can start to shift how you relate to the people around you this holiday season. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's go. Welcome to Essence, the podcast that helps you liberate yourself by understanding the heart of your relationship patterns. For the empathetic woman ready to transform that relationship overwhelm into liberation, I'm Olivia Heine, your host and coach in NLP, cycle syncing, and relationship dynamics. I'm here to guide you through emotional regulation, shadow work, and self-discovery that leads to true healing. If you're someone who feels deeply, who often puts your needs last, or is navigating challenging times in your relationship, you are in the right place. Together, we'll explore what it means to show up authentically, articulate your needs, and embrace the kind of conflict that can actually cultivate deeper connection, so that you can create more fulfilling relationships by being fully seen. This is all about uncovering the essence of who you are and how and why you show up in your relationships the way that you do. So let's dive in. Welcome back to Essence. Thank you so much for being here. We are starting a 4-part series now over the holiday season, all about navigating relationship dynamics over this holiday season. If you are listening to this as we go, I'm trying to make it applicable in a timely manner, so bear with me. And I'm really excited to address all the complexities that go into relationships and having a lot of different kinds of people in one space. And what I want you to keep in mind as we talk about this and as we go through the next 4 episodes together is that this is about your personal one-on-one relationship dynamics. And that can be with a parent, that can be with a sibling, with a family member, an extended family member. It can be with a partner, so a romantic partner, and it can even be with friends. So again, whatever person you are in a one-on-one dynamic with in a relationship, this is going to be applicable on a deeper level. The reason I say that and the reason I like to specify that is because your one-on-one relationships are the greatest mirrors into what is going on within you that is coming up and being triggered in order for it to be healed. It is in the one-on-one dynamics that we can be most triggered by the people we're in that relationship with. Because truthfully, someone who says something mean to us in the grocery store, or honks at us in traffic, or in a friend group setting, or in a work colleague setting, when a lot of people are around, there can be small little triggers, but those are going to be amplified when it's directly personal and about you in your relationship. So thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy if you are a returning listener. Thank you. Thank you. If you are new and you are finding this because you want to understand how to navigate this holiday season, thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. My name is Olivia Heine. I am here to help you get to the heart of your relationship patterns and go from overwhelmed to liberated in your romantic relationships specifically, but it often starts to repeat itself. Patterns are not happening in isolation. They repeat themselves, and therefore, most likely patterns that are happening in your relationships romantically or in your one-on-one personal relationships are going to repeat themselves in other relationships, in other areas of your life. So let's talk about holiday triggers and really just understanding what might come up this season. How can you hold yourself through it? And how can you really navigate it in a way that enables you to stay calm, enables you to hold your boundaries or enforce boundaries, and still feel really good? So we hear a lot of people talk about holiday stress, right? And a lot of the things that need to be prepared or that need to get done. And I want to raise the question that this can be a really easy way to distract ourselves from the actual stress that we're feeling. The stress of spending time with family or navigating certain things within familial relationships or connections, and also navigating things with your partner. Maybe it's the first time that you're spending a holiday together with your partner. they're meeting your family for the first time. Maybe you've been together for years and you just know how you respond in certain situations and you're worried about what that might bring up with your partner. Or you're just like, there's some things that are coming up for me and I haven't really communicated them yet. And like, this could be a time where things break down or where shit hits the fan. And really, why the holiday season becomes so stressful or feels so anxiety ridden is because of what's happening beneath the surface. The actual stress, which comes down to the unconscious patterns that are playing out, the unconscious patterns that are causing you to feel triggered in certain situations. And this particularly pertains to expectations about how you need to be, how you have shown up over the years within certain family dynamics. So this is the expectation. This is the role you play. You feel the expectation or the pressure to uphold that role. It can bring up a lot about self-worth, about, who has this job, who's already married, who has kids, what are you doing? A lot of that stuff can come up, as well as safety within relationships. And by safety, I don't mean, inherently that things are going to feel dangerous or life-threatening, but specifically around you feeling safe within your personal relationship. So with your partner, for example, and you feeling safe within your family dynamics, meaning, when those comments come up, are you feeling overly triggered? Are you feeling called out? Are you feeling riled up? Are you reacting or responding in a reactive way? What is actually showing up for you here? And how relaxed do you feel during this season? Because ultimately, this is also a time in the depth of winter to start to slow down, to hibernate, to reflect, to regulate yourself, to tune inwards. And when we're drawn in every which way direction and we're feeling triggered by a lot of different people potentially, that can feel really hard to do. So one of the reasons why we tend to be especially triggered around loved ones and the people we love so much is that, especially going home to family, can bring up unresolved fears or belief systems around rejection, belonging, love, perfectionism, value. And it can bring out a lot of parts of yourself too, right? Reverting back to people pleasing, peacekeeping, feeling like you need to show up again in a particular kind of role, being the perfect host, being the perfect mother, being the perfect partner, being the perfect daughter. And having those situations where you're spending that extended period of time with your family where you are likely to be more triggered. And the reason this happens when we see family, when we go back to kind of like the root of the crime, and I don't mean that in a negative way, there's no blame being placed here, but like we're going back to the place where root experiences were formed. And those root experiences gave you the information about what you need to do to fit in the world. And again, it's not about blame. This is not about you going back this holiday season and pointing fingers at anyone and saying like, this is your fault. You made me this way. No, absolutely not. You might feel like you want to do that, which means that there's something unresolved there to be healed. But when you're coming at it from a place of being healed or recognizing it or being in the process of healing it, the idea is that you go into those situations and you can see it from that external perspective, seeing it for what it is, which is, this is the root of my experiences, but that doesn't define how I respond or what I need to do here, or that I need to place any form of blame on anyone. Okay. So that's definitely not what we want to do. And if that is what you're feeling, then that is a really good indicator and sign that there is work to do. So you're in the right place. But with that being said, it can feel even more triggering. So if you've been doing the work, you've been reflecting, you've been diving into healing the subconscious, maybe you're even in liberation with me and you're going through the inner healing work, clearing out the belief systems, addressing the shadow side, understanding how to clear the old ways of being, these ways that you feel like you need to show up so that you can hold energetic boundaries, so that you can show up more authentically, so that you can step into relationship dynamics feeling totally comfortable being fully and 1000% seen. Okay. And even if you're on that journey, even if you're doing that healing work, going back to the quote unquote, again, lightly put, scene of the crime can re-trigger things. So it can be a really beautiful opportunity actually for you to see, where am I at with this? Like, how am I doing with this? And if I've been doing the healing work, like, take it as an experiment. And I mean that very, very lightly, simply because if there are a lot of triggering things coming up, that doesn't mean that the work that you've been doing isn't working inherently. It can just mean that it goes a lot deeper than maybe you even recognized, or that there's something else that came up that you didn't even think about, like a different element to the trigger that needs to be healed or that's asking to be healed. So again, the things that are coming up in your personal relationships, so mainly your romantic relationship with your partner, is likely to be amplified when you go back to a family environment, simply because those experiences or those triggers that you're experiencing in your relationship, or the challenges that you've been navigating and the way that you've been responding, they come from somewhere. And again, it can be family triggered, but it can also be, from friend groups, being at school. Like, there's a lot of different scenarios and environments where we get that initial conditioning. But for most of us, it's very likely that when we go back home, those things are going to come up, which again is why this can be such a stressful, anxiety-ridden season, but it doesn't have to be. So let's talk about how you can move through this, really hold yourself through this, and manage and navigate the emotional cycle that you might be going through. So first and foremost, if you have some time, I would encourage you to take 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes even before you go home, or if you're listening to this while you're with family, just excuse yourself and give yourself a little downtime. And if possible, just reflect on the things that do trigger you. So often, it's just about creating awareness around the cycles that are at play. So if you know that you feel really anxious, or if you know that you get easily defensive around this particular person, or if you even can recognize that because you get easily defensive around this particular person, that then gets projected onto your partner, that you then kind of get defensive or more short and snippy with them. If you have this time, write out what comes up for you. What patterns can you already start seeing? And a great way to do this is to just reflect on your personal relationship, meaning your relationship with your partner or relationships that you've had in the past with partners, and see what patterns you can find, because most likely those are the ones that are the strongest, that are going to come up most prevalently. So that's the first thing. And just identifying that specific trigger can be really, really helpful, so that in the moment when it comes up, you can say, oh, I know this. I am not being blindsided by this thing. I'm aware that this is my kind of go-to trigger. Okay, cool. Like, we're bringing awareness to it. We're taking away that initial power. And that doesn't mean that you might not still feel an emotional response. And I'll give you a little tool to navigate that as well. But it's really about bringing it into the light, not making it this big bad thing, because it's very normal and natural for you to have an emotional response to things. If you want to take this one step further, and you're at that point in your romantic relationship to communicate this with your partner, I really encourage you to do that. If that doesn't feel 100% aligned and you're like, I feel like I need to do some more healing around this first, or I don't know how to communicate this with my partner in a way that they don't take it personally, that's where this working together one-on-one or inside liberation is going to be really, really supportive to help you get to that point. The second thing to identify here, and again, this can happen when you're taking these 20 minutes to just kind of journal up patterns, or maybe in the moment after a trigger has happened, you can spend some time, again, reflecting on it. What is the unmet need that is coming up here? And again, this is why sitting down with this can be really, really powerful before you actually get there, because you might be able to identify, this was the need that was unmet for me. Like, the reason I get defensive is because I feel like I'm not being heard and understood, because, there was a core root experience where I wasn't able to share what I thought. I wasn't able to share my side of the story. So immediately now I get defensive because I feel like I need to prove myself before anyone else shuts me down, for example. And so understanding that and understanding that the unmet need is I didn't feel understood. I want to feel held and understood and connected in this. That again can be a really powerful thing for you to either give yourself in that situation where in the moment when you feel that trigger come up, you ask yourself, how can I meet that need? How can I understand myself more right now? And that can literally be, okay, what is my truth right now? What is the reality for me in this moment? And I'm going to honor that. Even if no one else around me is able to give that to me, that's okay. I can give that to me. Maybe that also means giving yourself the nurturance that you need, which is maybe excusing yourself for a few minutes or going out into nature and doing a walk, getting some fresh air, going to your favorite coffee shop, like doing what you need to do to feel most supported and to meet that need. And again, if you have that connection with your partner, if you are already in the process of talking about these deeper topics, not just the situational topics, which is one form of communication that I talk about, but the underlying topics, which is what is the pattern? What are the shadows that are coming up? What's being triggered? If you're already on that path, again, this is a really great way to frame it for your partner to let them know, like, this is my most likely trigger here. I'm working through it. But if it comes up in the moment, like, this is what I would really need from you if you're, open to holding space and supporting me. Again, just understanding that can shift so much. Understanding that it comes from an unmet need, understanding that this is your trigger, and understanding that this is not a bad thing, that this doesn't make you a bad person, or if you've been doing the work and it's coming up again, that doesn't mean that the work isn't working, right? So this is the whole purpose also of this podcast, that the more you understand yourself, the more you are able to navigate situations in your relationships and also communicate your needs with the people closest to you. And quite honestly, that doesn't mean that you have to communicate your needs with everyone. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to understand your needs. But most importantly, if you are in that romantic relationship, that your partner can show up for you, that your partner understands your needs, that your partner is someone that you do practice really communicating with on this deeper, vulnerable, fully seen level, right? And ultimately, it's also really important, and we'll talk about this in the next episode, but it's really important to separate what's yours from what someone else's, especially if you're dealing with someone who you are in a relationship with, for example, a family member or a parent or a sibling who isn't on the same healing level that you're at, right? There is a difference between communicating with someone who we are on an equal playing field with, who is receptive to us and who wants to understand and who wants to connect and who understands that there are deeper patterns at play, which also comes with everyone's own time, versus someone who's not interested in that, someone who is not going to address anything with you. And that's when you have to be able to regulate for yourself. So it's not always about needing to address things. It's not always about needing to fix things or have the conversation. It can often just be about you holding that energetic boundary. So that's going to be the final little tidbit that I'm going to give you on regulating yourself emotionally, is really embodying this energetic shield around yourself. That as things come up, you can separate your emotions and what's yours from what is someone else's. And something that we do as very empathetic and highly sensitive human beings, which if you're here, I'm going to guess that you are because that is me. But one thing that we do is we take on the emotions of other people. We feel so deeply. And so when someone else is upset, even though it might trigger us, we also feel the need to fix it, which is also a shadow and a trigger and a wound that we want to be healing. But when this happens, it can feel really hard to actually regulate yourself emotionally, right? Because you feel the trigger, you have the situation, but then you're dealing with multiple people's emotions. So this is about coming back to you and really embodying as you move through every situation. And this is just a visualization practice that you can hold with yourself, this protective bubble of light around you. And it's healing for yourself because it enforces the boundary for you that no one has the right to your time and energy, No one gets to tell you how it is or isn't, but that at the same time they can, and you don't need to take it on. That you get to hold what you choose to hold and what you choose to take on, and you get to protect yourself from the rest. And that is a regulation practice. It's not a solving or a fixing or a healing practice, but it is a way to start shifting and also recognizing and separating what's yours versus what is not yours to carry. So this is the first of 4 episodes. We're going to be diving into specific topics over the next couple of weeks that will hopefully, my intention is, support you through the season. And even if you don't have this stuff coming up for you, that's also okay. This can still be really powerful work for you to reflect on, or just episodes for you to listen in on, because they might give you other tidbits. Because again, we're talking about it in terms of a holiday theme right now, but this stuff happens all the time anyways. Like, it doesn't need to be about the holidays, but it's timely, so we're talking about it. All right, sending you so much love. Happy holidays, and I'll see you back here next week. Thank you for joining me on Essence. I hope today's episode gave you new insights and encouragement on your path to showing up authentically and embracing honest communication and connection. Remember, each step you take, whether it's setting a boundary, speaking up for your needs, or recognizing a pattern, brings you closer to a liberated, empowered self. If this episode resonated with you, please share it or leave a review to help us reach more listeners. Until next time, stay true to your essence, trust in your path, and keep showing up as the cycle breaker you are.